The moment I opened my door, I knew something was wrong. The man holding my daughter's hand wasn't just kissing it, he was marking territory, his dark eyes sliding past her face to inventory. My house like a wolf counting sheep. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. Dad, Adeline's voice bubbled with joy. I hadn't heard since her mother died. This is Matteo. Before I could respond, the stranger dropped to one knee right there in my foyer. The marble tiles Maria had chosen 15 years ago reflected his theatrical gesture. Behind him, an older couple pushed through my doorway. Uninvited, the woman's perfume thick enough to choke on. Mr. Green, Matteo announced, still on his knee, not even waiting for proper introductions. I must have your daughter's hand. She is my destiny. The words sounded rehearsed. His accent was heavy, but the pronunciation too perfect, like he'd practiced this speech in front of a mirror. The ring he produced caught the hallway light. 2 carats at least, far beyond what any car dealership manager should afford. Matteo, you're embarrassing me. Adeline giggled, but her eyes shone. 28 years old, my daughter still believed in fairy tales. The older man had already moved past us into my living room. What a magnificent home. His fingers traced the edge of my leather couch, checking the label underneath. You must tell me about your investments, Mr. Green. That's Carlos, Matteo's father, Adeline explained, pulling me along while Matteo finally stood. And this is Isabel, his mother. Isabel grabbed my hands with both of hers, her smile wide but cold. How wonderful to meet you. Adeline says you own a construction company. How many properties do you own? For wedding planning, of course, wedding planning. They'd been dating 3 months. My military training kicked in automatically. Exits cataloged, positions noted, threat levels assessed. Carlos had his phone out, photographing my family pictures. Isabel's eyes tracked across the room like she was pricing items for auction. Matteo kept one arm around Adeline, while his other hand checked his phone every few seconds. Dad's company built half of downtown Austin. Adeline beamed, missing how all 3 visitors perked up at this information. Carlos abandoned his photography to shake my hand. His grip was too firm, held too long, a dominance play I recognized from 20 years of negotiations. A successful man. You must have excellent insurance policies, retirement funds. Dinner should be ready soon, I said, keeping my voice level, my construction foreman voice. Maria used to call it, calm but commanding. Why don't we move to the living room? They spread through my space like water finding cracks. Isabel settled into Maria's reading chair, running her fingers along the Italian leather. Carlos studied my bookshelf, pulling out volumes to check their worth. Matteo guided Adeline to the couch, but remained standing, positioning himself between us. Tell me about this proposal, I said, settling into my armchair. Seems sudden. Love knows no timeline, Matteo declared. Another practiced line. When I saw Adeline at that Starbucks on 6th Street, I knew she would be my wife. There was no Starbucks on 6th Street. I kept my expression neutral. It was magical. Dad, Adeline added, showing the ring again. He walked right up to me and said I was the most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. Carlos had moved to my wall of military photos. You served, Mr. Green. That must mean excellent benefits. Veterans have such wonderful programs. Some, I replied, watching him photograph my discharge papers. Isabel leaned forward. Adeline mentioned your wife passed. I'm so sorry. The insurance must have helped with the transition. The transition, like Maria's death from cancer, was a corporate restructuring. We managed, I said. Matteo's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then typed quickly. The message was in Spanish. I caught a glimpse of Sophia before he pocketed the device. Your parents flew in from Mexico. I asked him. Houston. Carlos corrected quickly. We live in Houston now for many years. I thought Matteo said Dallas when we met. Adeline said, confused. We moved around. Matteo said smoothly. Dallas, Houston, San Antonio. Papa's business requires it. What business? I asked Carlos. Import and export, he replied. Vaguely. Very successful. Completely legitimate. Nobody had suggested otherwise. Isabel stood abruptly. We should celebrate. This beautiful home needs champagne for such wonderful news. I have wine, I offered. From my collection. Carlos's eyes lit up. A wine collection. Of course, a man of your caliber would have excellent taste. They followed me through the house, like appraisers at an estate sale. Isabel touched every surface. Carlos opened closet doors by mistake. Mateo whispered urgently to his father in Spanish, something quick and sharp that made Carlos wave him off dismissively. The dining room's this way, I said, catching Carlos mid-whisper as they thought I'd moved ahead. His hand was on Mateo's shoulder, speaking rapidly in Spanish, while gesturing at the walls, the furniture calculating values I pretended not to understand. I pulled the wine bottle from the rack, reading the label aloud for Carlos's benefit. 2015 chats to Margot. Been saving it for something special. His eyes widened with naked greed. This must have cost quite a bit. Dad collects wine, Adeline said, seating herself next to Mateo. Mom started the tradition before she passed. Isabel claimed the chair closest to me, her positioning tactical. Carlos sat across from his son, creating a triangle around me. I'd seen this formation before. Interrogation setup, designed to pressure from multiple angles. The court came free, with a soft pop. I poured deliberately, watching Carlos practically salivate as the burgundy liquid filled his glass. He grabbed it before I'd finished serving others. Tell us your love story, Isabel prompted her son, while studying the crystal stemware for Truman to understand. Mateo launched into his tale. I was getting coffee at that Starbucks, you know, the one on 6th, when I saw Adeline grading papers. The sun hit her hair like gold. The sun didn't reach inside that fictional Starbucks. I kept pouring. It was actually cloudy that day, Adeline corrected, laughing, but everything else was perfect. Right, cloudy, Mateo adjusted quickly, but she glowed anyway. I knew I had to meet her. When was this? I asked, settling into my chair. January 15th, Mateo said. January 8th, Adeline said simultaneously. They looked at each other. Mateo laughed too loud. Time flies with love. Every day feels like the first time. Isabel fingered Adeline's ring, tilting it under the light. The clarity is exceptional. You must have paid 30,000 at least. Mother, Mateo protested, but his voice lacked conviction. We need to know for insurance purposes. Isabel continued. When you add it to your policy, Truman. When? Not if. Carlos had already emptied his glass. As I refilled it, he said, your construction company must have government contracts. Those are the most lucrative. Some, I admitted, serving the first course, Adeline's grandmother's soup recipe. Federal contracts mean guaranteed payment, Carlos continued. Perfect for a man planning his daughter's future. Mateo's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. Another Spanish text, the word urgent visible before he flipped it over. Everything all right? I asked. Just work, he said quickly. The dealership never stops calling. Which dealership? I asked, though Adeline had told me. Toyota of North Austin, he said. I thought you said Honda of Cedar Park. Adeline frowned. I worked at both, Mateo covered. Recently switched. Isabel steered the conversation back. Truman, you must have excellent life insurance. A man in construction. Such dangerous work. Dad's been doing it for 30 years, Adeline defended. He's careful. Accidents happen, Carlos said darkly, then caught himself. I mean, it's good to be prepared. The second course arrived. Maria's enchiladas. Isabel took one bite, and spoke rapid Spanish to her husband, not quite under her breath. Something about bland American versions. Adeline, who'd spent hours perfecting the recipe, smiled unknowingly. These are wonderful, dear, Isabel said in English, her tone completely different. How's your visa situation? I asked Mateo directly. Adeline mentioned you're from Mexico, originally. The table went silent. Carlos's hand stopped halfway to his wine glass. My visa situation is complicated, Mateo said carefully. Everything is legal, Carlos insisted too quickly. My son has all proper documentation. Dad's business is totally legitimate. Matteo added, which seemed unrelated to the question. Isabel touched my arm. Family is what matters. Papers are just bureaucracy. Of course, I agreed, noting how they all relaxed. Dessert approached as they discussed the wedding. Each time Adeline mentioned a detail, the family calculated costs aloud. 20,000 for the venue, 15 for catering. The numbers kept climbing. We'll contribute, Carlos announced magnanimously. After all, we're joining families. Your success is our success. Papers fell from Matteo's jacket as he reached for more wine. Official-looking documents, with USCIS visible on the header. He snatched them back, shoving them deep in his pocket. Work papers, he said unnecessarily. Always carrying work papers. Carlos poured himself another glass. His fourth. His cheeks had grown red, his guard dropping. Time is short for us all. We must move quickly with our plans. Papa, Matteo warned. Carlos waved him off, then looked at his family meaningfully. Some opportunities don't wait. I rose to get the cake, my movements calm despite my racing pulse. Behind me they switched to rapid Spanish, voices low but urgent. Carlos's tone was commanding. Isabel's calculating, Matteo's reluctant. My hand paused mid-cut through the chocolate layers, the knife suspended as their conversation flowed. Every muscle in my body wanted to react, but I kept my expression pleasant, neutral, the perfect ignorant host about to serve dessert to wolves who thought they'd found a sheep. I resumed cutting the cake as their Spanish conversation filled my dining room, each word translating in my head, while my face remained pleasantly blank. The old fool's daughter is perfect for the green card, Carlos said, not bothering to lower his voice much. 3 years after marriage, then divorce. She gets her broken heart. We get citizenship, and half of everything. The knife sliced through chocolate frosting. Maria's recipe. She's a teacher, Isabel added, examining our family china. She'll believe anything with enough tears. Look how she gazes at Matteo, completely blind. My hand stayed steady, cutting equal portions. Papa, I told you Sophia's pregnant, Matteo said quietly. I can't leave her waiting 3 more years. Forget that girl, Carlos snapped. You'll do your duty to this family. Sophia will wait, or we'll find you another when you're divorced and rich. I thought of Maria teaching me Spanish during our first deployment together in Puerto Rico. Isucha, she'd said, listen more than you speak. The Marines had stationed me there for 2 years, but Maria had been my real education. Her family from San Juan had embraced me, taught me, made me fluent. What about the construction business? Isabel asked. The divorce settlement would be substantial. Half of everything, Carlos confirmed. Texas is a community property state. Plus the old fool will probably give Matteo a job. Americans are so trusting with family. What are you all discussing? Adeline asked brightly, breaking their flow. Just family memories, dear. Matteo lied smoothly, switching to English like flipping a channel.